Welcome back. Right now, we are honored to be joined by award-winning filmmaker Joe Berlinger to talk all about his docu-series coming up on Peacock called Shadowland. It explores conspiracy theories and much more, especially the consequences of those. Joe, thanks for being here today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited to hear more about Shadowland and especially your interest in this project and why you decided to do this particular docu-series.
Yeah, well, the Atlantic magazine a few years ago put out a series of articles online called Shadowland, exploring conspiracy theories and how they moved from kind of the fringes to the mainstream. It fascinates me because I think social and political discourse in this country is at an all-time low. We've divided into two camps. We vilify each other, and that's the enemy of democracy. Democracy is all about people coming together with different points of view, but agreeing on basic facts and doing what's best for the common good. And that's not happening anymore. We don't even agree on what's true anymore. So instead of doing the usual finger pointing and saying, hey, these people are crazy for believing these things, I wanted to really understand why people believe what they believe, whether it's about the election being stolen or that vaccines are a big global plot to control people. I wanted to go out into the real world and embed with people. I hired a great team of filmmakers to just explore and go out into the world to see why we have come to this such different versions of the truth, because I think it's really bad for our country, bad for democracy.
And you alluded to a couple of the conspiracy theories that you do explore in this docu-series. What more can you tell me about the theories that you go into depth with and find individuals that are very much into these theories and it's life-changing for them?
Yeah, so we spend time with a Pennsylvania woman who in rural Pennsylvania who has a pizza shop, and if you went to her pizza shop, you would think she's just like anybody else, but she was there on January 6th in the Capitol calling for Nancy Pelosi's head because she deeply believes there's a deep state and that there's controlling families who rule everything, and the people in power are all beholden to them. And she really deeply holds these beliefs. So we wanted to explore, how she got there. That's one example. But we also go into people who, believe the vaccine is a controlling plot. We go into people who are actually selling products. You can't forget that some of these people in conspiracy theories are there to sell products, and they know better. So, we just did a deep dive into all the ways that people are thinking about reality. That to me is a very different reality than what I look at.
Was it challenging to convince these individuals to share their story in such an open way on film? Did they have reservations about that, or were they excited to get this out there?
I think a little of both. I think people really wanted to have their views heard. We promised them that they would be treated with respect. The fine line that you have to walk in something like this is, on the one hand, I wanted people to have their say. I wanted people to feel like we're not judging their views. On the other hand, it would be irresponsible to put something out into the world that gives further oxygen to what we consider false beliefs. For example, we profile somebody who's giving out chlorine dioxide, which is bleach basically, and I'm a firm believer that drinking bleach every day is not a good thing. So I don't want people to walk away from the show thinking, okay, it's okay to drink bleach. So that's the fine line we're treading here, with trying to understand why people believe what they believe, but not giving the audience false information, because false information is we've never had more information more available at our fingertips. That's the wonderful thing about the internet. And when I was a kid, the idea of an iPhone was unheard of, that I could just find out anything. So we've never had more information available at our fingertips as a society, and yet the truth has never been more elusive for people. Half the country wakes up and says the sky is red, and that's just not a good thing.
And Joe, you've been described as a pioneer within the true crime film genre. Back in the mid 90s, you had Brothers Keeper, Paradise Lost, really gave air to this type of true crime that is so popular right now. You also worked on many other award-winning projects. You premiered a film about Ted Bundy with Zac Efron here at Sundance just a few years ago. What is it about this genre with true crime that also has similarities with these conspiracy theories in this docu-series? What is it about this genre that always intrigued you and that really you started your first projects with?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'm considered a true crime pioneer. I recoil as much as I embrace that description, because the phrase true crime conjures up the image of people telling stories just to wallow in the misery of others, as opposed to trying to do something from a social justice standpoint. So I look at all my true crime explorations as more about social justice. I've done a lot of wrongful conviction. Obviously, I've done Ted Bundy and serial killers, but to me, that's bringing the lessons of a Ted Bundy to a younger generation, because my daughter's generation never heard of Ted Bundy. And so I wanted them to understand the lessons of Bundy. So I always look for either exploding stereotypes, like with the West Memphis Three, just because somebody dresses in black and listens to Metallica music, it doesn't make them a devil worshiper, which was kind of the point of the Paradise Lost series. So I like to explode stereotypes. I like to understand the complications of an issue. And so that's where I think Shadowland comes into play. Not trying to judge, just trying to explode the stereotypes we have about one another, because if we don't start looking and discussing, looking at each other as three-dimensional human beings, and try to find our similarities versus our differences, we are a country that's being torn apart, and that's going to just unfortunately get worse. And that always leads to violence. That's my big concern, is that we are going to see violence in the next election cycle.
Well, Joe Berlinger, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today right here on Park City Television. Shadowland premieres today on Peacock. This is part of Peacock's first ever Doc Fest, so you want to make sure that you tune into that. And once again, thank you so much, Joe Berlinger, for joining us today, telling us all about his docuseries Shadowland. We'll be back with more right after this.